Hello and welcome. I'm Gail Martin. I'm your host for the Supernatural Fandom track here at Continual. And my guest today is Carrie Genzel. Carrie's an actress. She's been in a lot of really cool stuff, including, since we're on the Supernatural Fandom track, 2 episodes of Supernatural, Bugs and Just My Imagination. So Carrie, welcome.
Hi, it's good to be here virtually in my office.
Well, we love having you here with us. So you did 2 episodes at kind of different ends of the series. You were in one of the very first seasons, and then you were in season 11. So let's go back to Bugs, which is that infamous episode. I really love it because it kind of hit all my buttons. But what was that like working with it? You got the spider scene.
I did. You know, I really did enjoy the first season of Supernatural because it tapped into things that I love, which was the urban legends, and it was very dark. Even the way they shot the series back then, it was shot very differently in terms of the lighting and everything. It had a very dark tone to it, and that was right up my alley. I was like, this is a great idea because, you know, back then the CW really didn't have anything that dark. And you know, I've said this before, I remember talking to Jared and Jensen, and they're like, they were really just trying to figure it out as they go, not necessarily the actors but everyone as a team. And they're like, we're not really sure if this is going to fly because it's really different than what's out there. And you know, you had Buffy, but there was a lot of humor, and there's still, you know, Supernatural has that humor peppered throughout, and then they definitely expanded on that as the seasons have gone forward. But it was fun to be there, like at kind of ground zero, and not having a clue what was going to happen, and not having social media like there is today. So you know, as an actor, you would go do your work and enjoy yourself, and then go, thanks so much, bye everybody, and then like maybe get some letters written to you. You know,
Let's imagine that.
It was a different experience, you know, which was a whole, you know, other side of the coin when Just My Imagination aired. But it was really fun to be there at the beginning. And I know that it's an episode that is continuously on like the worst episode list.
Hey, but it's on a list. It's on a list, you know.
But for me, it was scary, but it was also a really great time because, you know, the boys are great to work with and really fun. And I got to work with Kim Manners, who directed the episode, who, you know, came from X-Files, like some incredible X-Files episodes. And so, you know, when I went to audition for Kim, I was like, I really want to work with Kim because he's a badass. You know, it's like, I don't know what this show is, but I want to work with Kim. And so when he asked me if I would be able to work with spiders, and not only work with spiders, Gail, would I be able to lay down on the floor with spiders all over me and have my mouth open? He was very specific about that. And I got so mesmerized, like listening to him, because he was so specific and he really like painted the picture, that I was like, yeah, I can do that. Right? And I leave the room, I'm walking back to my car, and I'm like, what did I just say? I can't do that. I'm afraid of spiders, right? I was totally afraid of spiders. And I thought, you know what? I might not get the job, right? There were some other great actresses in the waiting room. Like, what are the odds, right? All of a sudden I get the call, you book Supernatural. And I'm like, oh my God. But you know what? They were so great in making sure that I felt comfortable, and also, you know, covering their butts too, because I don't want to get an actor on set who then freaks out and can't actually do it, because that costs everybody time and money. And so they set me up with the bug wranglers before I even went on set, just to kind of talk about the do's and don'ts of spiders, and to make sure that I was comfortable in
bug wranglers.
Yeah, it was bug wranglers. It's a real thing.
There are animal trainers and all of that, but bug wranglers.
Yeah, and Gail, let me just tell you what it's like to walk into their trailer. Everything's crawling. It's like I walked in and I'm trying to be really cool, and I'm like sweat pouring down like the sides of my shirt, and I'm like, hey, so what's going on? I'm the spider girl. And so, they were like, well, we're just going to, as we're talking, we're going to talk about some things to do and don't do and what they like and don't like. I'm like, yeah, let's focus on the don't like, because I really want to make some notes there. We're just going to put some spiders on you while we're talking. And I'm like, sure, like casually just throw those on. Okay, yeah, totally cool with that, right? And so he did. He like placed some on my face and my head and whatever. And we're talking, and I did learn how to work with spiders, right? They don't like wet or moist things, right? Good to know. Okay, made a note of that. They don't like air, they'll run, right? And they're actually quite fragile. And I think like just even thinking about that, of like, me typically was like, like, let me kill this thing. But just kind of learning how fragile they really are, it kind of made me think of them in a different way, of like, I felt like I had a responsibility to protect the spiders. And I worked with all different size spiders as well. Like I had the big fuzzy guy with the legs, and then they had the smaller ones when I was dead, because Kim really wanted the movement. Thanks, Kim. And anyway, as we were talking, one of the spiders went in my ear and did not come out. Just stayed in there. And we're talking away, and I'm like, hi, it's in my ear. It went in my ear. And he goes, oh yeah, they do that. They like dark places. And I'm like, okay, are we going to get that out, or will it come out, or what's the plan here? And he's like, okay, just a second. He's like looking around on his desk, and he like took out, I actually have one. He like took out a big pen, did this, and then dug this part in my ear to get the spider out. And he got it out, and he goes, well, if that didn't bother you, you're going to be fine. And he goes, and by the way, when we shoot this, we're going to give you earplugs so that doesn't happen. And I was like, oh, great, problem solved. So all of the spiders I worked with on set, like all of the spiders that you see in that episode are real, with the exception of the ones that come out of the shower head, because shower or water and spiders don't mix. So they had to do that with CGI, but all of the other spiders were 100% real that I worked with. Yeah, so I'm no longer afraid of spiders. Thank you, Supernatural. And I was really proud of myself. The crew actually gave me like a standing ovation. When I rapped, they were like, girl, you have some balls of steel. Like, because I'm not going to mention names, but there were some other, not regular cast members, but there were some guest actors in that episode. One in particular that had a complete meltdown, like on set. And I happened to be there when it happened, and I heard one of the guys in the crew go, have you seen what this girl is going to do? Like, you're worried about this situation? So it is a thing of like, as much as an actor, you're like, yeah, I can totally do that. It can be different when the reality of it is actually happening and things start crawling all over, because, they go wherever they want. And, we did the scene where I'm dead on the floor. We did it twice. And so that meant that we had to reset the spiders. And I had, I think, 3 or 4 different people with little white plastic spoons picking up each spider individually, and there were about 180 of them. And then putting them all in the little containers and then dumping them on me again. It was an interesting day at the office.
Any reactions from Jared and Jensen on the spiders?
Well, they weren't there when we shot that. I did work in a scene with Jared where I had one of the big fuzzy guys, and it was like kind of coming towards my hand, but it doesn't actually, and then I pick it up and I walk away. So we were on set together with the spider, and we were just kind of talking about them and stuff, and he seemed kind of interested in them and stuff. I mean, I said to him, I said, I would much rather work with the spiders than be in the scene in the attic with the bees and doing this, because that's not what you're supposed to do for bees. And I know that ended up being a little bit of a nightmare because bees got out into the sound stage. And I think that someone got stung. I'm pretty sure. But I feel like I was like, but I did get bit once too. I got bit like right on my forehead during a scene. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This thing's just bit me. Like, it's like, oh no. I'm like trying not to move. I'm like, you're dead, don't move. And they ran up. I was like, something bit my head. And they were like, yeah, it's okay. It didn't get through all the layers of skin. I was like, oh, good. Fantastic news. So anyway, yeah, there were definitely some challenging times in that episode. And I think that they probably made a rule after that, no more bugs.
They might have.
Yeah.
Wow, that's terrific. Were they using any specific kind of spider to be maybe like less venomous?
Well, that was, I mean, I think more than anything, using the smaller ones, or they call them the babies, was safer because, as it was said to me, their fangs aren't long enough to actually like penetrate all the way down into your system. Oh, great. But I think more than anything, they just really wanted smaller ones so that you could see all of the movement and stuff, because it's harder if you have bigger ones on you.
Yeah.
You don't get it. There's not as much real estate. But I had to do the scene where Linda walks into her bedroom and turns on the news and the spider comes down her forehead was like a whole other thing too, because first off, you can't train a spider to hit its mark, right? And going back to spiders don't like air blown at them, the bug wrangler was laying behind me on the bed, and there was a plastic tube that went up through my costume, up through my hair, in my hair, and then they would put the spider at my hairline, and then he would blow in the tube so it would run across my forehead, which you have to just keep doing it until it runs the right way. And then I had to scoop it in a very particular way so I didn't hurt the spider, but make it look natural. I mean, it was crazy. But anyone that's ever like taken science will realize that if you keep blowing into a plastic tube over and over and over again, eventually you get condensation. And so what happened is spit started to drip down my forehead from the wrangler behind me. Something to think about next time you watch that scene. But we did get a great shot. The little guy ran exactly where he was supposed to, and I did a little scoop, and he flew off, and they caught him, and everything was good.
I think that's one of the things that we get so used to, just assuming everything's CGI anymore, to realize how much creativity and effort goes into those practical effects.
Yeah, and as an actor, it helps so much to be able to have, even though it can be terrifying, it helps so much to have the practical. And I know that there's certain directors that really fight for that, and it can be costly too in terms of time, and but although CGI is not cheap either, but as an actor, you have something to react to. And sure, they could have done it later in post, and I could have just whatever, but then sometimes it doesn't match up properly, and it did help to actually have the spider there, And, because you're actually feeling the little feet and, and the whole experience. They tried to put some real spiders in the shower, like high enough or whatever. It just didn't work because, again, it's like you have warm water and there's condensation and there's just a lot going on. So they had to have the visual effects team come and mark everything. And that was a whole other, weird and wacky experience on the set of Supernatural, is like having to take a shower in front of the crew. And then for a long time, because there's different angles, and then they had the effects team come in, and then, thank gosh my brother didn't work on the team then. That would have been awkward. But, and then, Linda falls through the shower door. She gets attacked. And so we had to shoot that, which they shot my feet. And so I had to fall, and I'm soaking wet because I've been in there for hours, right? Wearing nothing more than tape. And I had to fall forward, like I'm falling through the door on top of the stunt coordinator, who was lying on a crash pad. He was just lying on the floor doing this, waiting to catch me. And I'm like, this is really odd. Like, you have to do it multiple times because, again, it's getting everything coordinated, the camera, and then like I would scream and fall, and they would throw fake glass into the bottom of the shower and blood. And then I would fall through. So it was a whole coordinated effort. But the poor guy who I had to fall on top of, by the end of it, he was soaked, right? Because I kept falling on top of him. And it was very odd. It was like, so, how's your day going? This is weird. Yeah, I definitely had some interesting memories from that episode.
You talk about the spiders. I had just seen a clip from one of the conventions where Jared and Jensen were talking about the scene in Yellow Fever where the big snake comes down over Jensen's shoulder.
Right.
And he hadn't been expecting it to be that big of a snake or that close. And apparently Jared said he got up and ran. Jared got up and ran all the way back to the Video Village where everybody else was.
Oh,
and
my God.
What are you doing here? You're supposed to be on the set. Oh no. And meanwhile, Jensen's got this gigantic snake.
Right.
And he said, the head's as big as my fist and it's right there. But yeah, Jared apparently
laughed. Right. I think I would still rather work with the spiders than the snakes. Snakes, while I was shooting that episode, while I was shooting Bugs, they were casting for Snakes on a Plane, which they shot in Vancouver. And I was like, okay, I'm good now with the animals. Like, I don't need reptiles now. Like, I'm good. I feel like I've hit my fear factor moment. And luckily I didn't get called in for that. But I thought, I don't know if I could do that. Like, and then, while they were shooting, we kept hearing all these stories of actors getting freaked out. Even Sam Jackson, apparently, because of the snakes. But, yeah, I don't know. It's a very infamous episode. I'm proud to be a part of it, but I'm also very, very proud to be in one of the fan favorite episodes. Just my imagination. I felt like I had redemption. But still something on my face. I don't know why I always need to have something on my face when I'm on the show. But that was just so much fun to be a part of from start to finish. And again, another incredible director with Richard Speight Jr., who just killed it and knocked it out of the park. I had no idea until I think the day we wrapped that he had never directed before. Because you just never knew that. He's an actor at heart and he knows how to talk to actors, and has such a great relationship with, the boys and the cast and the crew, that I just felt like he'd always been there. And so, it was a really great experience. And I knew when I got the script, I'm like, this is a really special episode. It's an episode that still when I see it, will make me laugh, and I always cry. It kind of has everything, you know. And Jenny Klein, who wrote the episode, just does such a beautiful job, I think, of writing that episode and really kind of hitting all the notes that it should hit.
Yeah, you got to have the invisible blood that you couldn't see, and Sam could.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, you want to talk about trying to ignore things that you're not supposed to pay attention to as an actor. Try being on set with Nate Torrance, who played Sully, who, first off, looked ridiculous and was hilarious, right? And it was so hard not to look at him in those scenes. Like, I was constantly like, don't look at Nate, don't look at Nate, don't look at Nate, don't look over there, look over there, look over there, look over there. Like, it was so hard to ignore him and not laugh. Right? When we did the scene with putting the blood on my face, we rehearsed it just in terms of what it was going to look like, what the movement was going to be. And, you know, the way we actually did it is that when another Linda, I have Linda Bloom and Linda Berman, the LBs, when I sit down on the bench behind Sparkle and I'm talking to the boys, there's two really big pools of glitter blood on the bench. So I sit down and I put my hands in them, right? And I like got it really in there, right? Because, you know, Richard was like, we just really want to see it, right? And I'm like, all right, let's go. And I've worked with fake blood before. It's syrup, it's sticky, right? But adding the chunky blood or chunky sparkle, I didn't know what was going to happen. So I could really get my hands in there, right? And, you know, Richard had made me promise before we actually shot the scene for real. He said, you got to promise me that no matter what happens, you don't break. Don't laugh, because the boys are going to make some really crazy faces, and then you've got Nate, and the dialogue is hilarious. You please promise me that you won't laugh, because if you do, it's going to put us an hour behind, because we got to take all of it off your face, put your makeup back on, and like, it's a whole thing. And I was like, I got your back. No matter what happens, I'm getting through the scene. I don't care what happens. I'm there for you, right? So I sit down in the scene we're shooting, and I'm not going to say my heart's going a little fast, because I'm like, don't screw this up, right? And I don't know what's going to happen, right? So I put my hands in the blood, I do the scene, and I do this, and I can feel it smear across my face, and I see the boys, and I see them, they're like, their faces, right? Because they're not on camera. They're sitting there, and I'm like, oh God, it must look really crazy, right? And I get up to continue the scene, and there's dialogue, and I have dialogue, and then all of a sudden I feel this big piece of glitter go right in my eye, like right in my eye. And I don't know if you've ever had glitter in your eye, but it was like a knife, like in your eye. And I'm like, oh shit, oh no, okay, no, I can't stop this scene. I promised Richard, I promised him that I won't stop this scene. And then I'm like, just blink normal, blink, don't over blink. Okay, don't look at Nate. Okay, look at Jared, look at Jensen, look at Jared, look at Jensen, keep blinking. Okay, say your line. Okay, look at Jared, look at Jensen. That's all I'm doing through the whole scene. And they're like, cut. And I was like, makeup! And they came and like fished out the thing. But and then everyone just started laughing because I looked so crazy. But I was determined not to wreck that scene. And that stuff stained my face and my hands because I had it on for hours. And you're under the hot lights, and I'm so fair anyway. And they took it off, and I had like this red film like on my hands and on my face. And I'm sitting in the makeup trailer, and they come over with this can of shaving cream, and I'm like, okay. And she's like, no, it gets stains out. And I was like, really? So, little pro tip for everybody.
That is good to know.
In case you can't get your fake blood off your face and it stains, get out some shaving cream. And they actually had to do it a couple times, but it really lifted the stains.
You know, that would probably work for some of those cupcake frostings that are so intensely dyed.
Oh yeah.
I remember my son had dark blue cupcakes for a kid's birthday party once, and we had a whole room full of Smurfs because you couldn't get the blue off them.
Shaving cream.
Shaving cream, now we know.
Yeah, it was crazy. Now, what the shaving cream couldn't do was prevent me from finding glitter on myself for months later. Months and months, I would find glitter in my car, in everything. It just never went away. My life continued to sparkle for months.
So now, you were there in season 1 with Bugs, and then all the way at season 11 with Just My Imagination. What differences did you notice in just the show itself, or maybe the ambiance, or the boys, or?
It was fun to go back because some of the crew was still there, the same crew, and which says a lot about the show and the boys in particular. So that was really fun because people were like, wait a second, even when the boys walked up, they were like, Jensen was like, wait a minute. He's like, you've been here before. I was like, Spider Lady. And he's like, oh, yes. But it was really fun to be back because, in season 1, when I was on, they were just 2 single guys working in Vancouver on a new show, right? Living the life. And, coming back 10 years later, they're married, they have kids, it was really cool. And they, we talked about their kids and just how life had changed and how the show had just exploded. And, security had gotten a lot stricter on set. Like I was sharing recently, Jenna Skoji, who played Maddie, my daughter, we were both getting out of the transport van to walk onto set when we were shooting on location for the Berman house, and security stopped us. And they were like, I'm sorry, we're shooting here. And I was like, we're on the call sheet. Like, we're in this. Look, pull it out. This is us. Like, I was like, they wouldn't even let us on set. And when we shot in season 1, I don't remember seeing any fans standing outside because it was brand new. I think maybe only a couple of episodes had aired. And, of course, season 10 was a whole different ballgame where you have security and people looking out their windows and trying to take pictures. And because we had, baby parked in front of the house and, it was a little flashy looking. So it was a totally different ballgame walking on set. And like I said, this show, certainly Just My Imagination, was much lighter than Bugs, the way it was shot and just the overall tone. But, still that humor, because that scene in Bugs where I go through my whole spiel of we accept homeowners of any race, religion, or sexual orientation. Jensen ad-libbed that moment where he's like, okay, and he hits Jared on the butt and walks away, and then I smile. That was all ad-libbed, and I'm glad they kept it in because it's just so cute.
Yeah.
So they always had those little moments, of humor. I think even in those dark episodes, there might be, just a little something. But this one, certainly at the top of the episode with our stuff, it just was humor, all humor. And it was fun to be able to do that and have fun and Everett Shea, who plays Sparkle, I thought was just so wonderful. And it was fun to watch him work and be this, imaginary friend. And the poor guy on behind the scenes. So obviously when you play someone who's been murdered and you're shooting that, you can't breathe, right? And so we were shooting the scene where we all walk in and the boys, and of course Sully can see that he's been murdered and I can't. And, he's laying there holding his breath. And Richard's like, cut. And then, okay, we're going to, immediately, what's the next shot? And all of a sudden I hear Jensen go, breathe, 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 because he was still holding his breath. Everett, being the good professional actor, was like, I'm going to keep holding my breath until someone tells me not to. And it was like, no one told him he could breathe. I was like, oh my God, we almost lost Sparkle for real. The thing that made me so sad about that murder scene was that his horn was broken off. I was like, oh, that's so sad. And one of the things things that made me laugh so hard is when Everett first came out of hair and makeup as Sparkle. I was coming out of my trailer. We were walking to craft service, and nobody even looked at him twice at all. And I said, you know, you're working on Supernatural when this situation doesn't even faze anybody. There's a walking, talking manicorn going to craft service. No one cares.
You're either on the set of Supernatural or you're at a convention.
That's true. Yeah. The crew was just like unfazed. Yeah.
So I have to ask, do you have any favorite Jared and Jensen moments from behind the scenes or from just?
Oh my gosh. I remember there was a moment, there's in the scene when the boy, first off, can we discuss the cardigans? I mean, I just about died when they come to the door and they're wearing their little Mr. Rogers cardigans. That was funny enough. But, they're always joking around, and, they have such a camaraderie because who they are on camera is who they are off camera, right? And if one messes up a line or trips, it doesn't go unnoticed by the other one. And there's comments made, and it's very funny. And, it was tough to get through Manicorn and looking at Jensen's face. In the scene, Jared has a line where I'm talking about my daughter, Maddie, in the other room, and they want to go talk to her. So he goes, well, may we? And that turned into a whole goofy thing where he kept going, may we? Like it was French. and then, Jensen would pick up on it, and it became a whole thing. And just stumbling over lines. I remember Jared stumbling over a line and Jensen turning to him and go, are you having a stroke? It just this constant banter between the two of them. I didn't see any practical jokes or anything. Both times I was on set, I was saved from that. I think both times they're like, this girl's got enough going on. So there wasn't, she's good. So I didn't get to participate in anything like that, but it's just, and I said this to them when I was there. I said, the fact that you guys are still here, which is so, and they are, it went on. It's not like that was the last season. But I said, the fact that you guys are still here and the fan base has grown the way that it has and become a family, it says something about who you guys are and how much you appreciate that fandom. I said, because that's so incredibly rare in this business. And it takes a really special, relationship to make that happen. And, being on set, you really do feel like it's a family. And, they are the captains of that ship. They set the tone. And they really do make you feel welcome and that you're a part of that family during that episode. So, and I think that they do that no matter what they're doing. If they're at a convention or a Comic-Con, they do make you feel like, they're the boys, they're your friends. They have that, and it's special because not everybody has that. Mm-hmm. But they really are so appreciative of the support that they've gotten over the years. And I think it's incredible how open and honest that they've been, as well as I know Misha as well, about their struggles in their lives and, their journey, which has really helped a lot of fans feel not so alone. And I think it's easy, especially for a show that has had the success that it's had, for people to put actors up on this pedestal and forget that, they're real people. And just because they're on a television show doesn't mean life doesn't happen to them. And I think that they've really been really instrumental in breaking down that, false curtain of perfection to say, this is who we are. And we struggle with this too. And, we're all in this together. And I think that that's really incredibly special and so valuable. I mean, it's really inconceivable to think about how many people that have been helped by that honesty.
Yeah, they are 2 in a million.
Yeah.
So you were on Smallville and on Days of Our Lives. Did you work with Jensen?
No, I never did. When I was on season 1 on Supernatural, I talked to Jensen a little bit about that, about being on days, but we never had scenes together, which is really funny. No, our paths like did not cross until Supernatural, which is funny. It was like, it's funny how that happens in this industry, that there's people that you kind of almost, work with, or I had that conversation with Michael Shanks because we had worked on a Hallmark movie a few years ago now, but there were other projects that we were both in, but we never worked together. Which was really funny. So I had done a Stargate, but didn't work with him. And we were both in a Lifetime movie called The Pastor's Wife, and we never worked together. And it was just so funny. I'm like, finally. And it's funny, we actually have the same agent in Vancouver. So I was like, we're finally going together. And it was worth the wait because we had so much fun working together. But it's funny how there's people that it's like you're circling, and then hopefully you're like, hey, you get to have some fun on set.
So what are you working on now? Do you have some new projects, some new things coming up? I saw that you're producing, maybe looking at some feature films. What's new and next, and what are you doing?
Staying safe. I'm doing a lot of time in my office. I shot a couple of Christmas movies last year, so I know that they're working to get those, to find distribution for those, and everything's just a little, not the way that it was. So I know they're working hard to find a home for those, and hopefully they will air this year, which is always fun. People love those Christmas movies. And for Supernatural fans, because Supernatural and Hallmark shoot in Vancouver, you see a lot of your favorite Supernatural actors in Christmas movies, which I think is always the fun, like the yin and the yang. It's like, because very different. And then I'm also working on a new project that I was inspired to create during this time, because so many people I know who are creators and make these beautiful handmade jewelry and art and all kinds of things, who normally do fan conventions or other art type conventions, craft conventions, and art fairs, etc., which are not happening and may not for a little while, are really struggling right now. And these small boutiques that we love that are in our communities. And so I was really inspired to start something virtually to support those people and promote what they do and their products, and that's called the Vendors Room, which you can find at thevendorsroom.com. And we're working really hard to get that launched. We're building everything right now on the website. So that's something that's keeping me very busy right now. And then I have a blog called State of Slay, which a lot of Supernatural fans follow. I write that blog about my own experience on my journey with mental health and my journey from hating myself to finding love in myself. So it's a positive blog, and it's an empowerment, and it's a great sense of community where we all support each other.
And you were talking a little bit about that journey before we started recording. And I'd love to hear you come back to some of those things that you said, because they were very meaningful.
Oh, yeah. For me, like, people ask me often, why did you become an actor? And for me, growing up, I had so much self-doubt, and I really didn't like myself. I was very uncomfortable in my own skin. And I found that many times I would put on a character. I would be who I thought you wanted me to be, because I wanted you to like me, and I didn't really want you to ask me many questions. And I kind of was acting in life. And in high school, I discovered the drama club, and it was this kind of mysterious, dark place with a stage where all of these, really big personalities kind of hung out, and it looked like they had a lot of fun, and I was very drawn to it. and those people, because I thought, you know, maybe this is a place where I can, you know, really explore. And so that kind of was where I found that performer in here. Here's Miss Daphne. She's also a performer. You never want to miss an opportunity to upstage her mother. Here she comes. And, you know, it really was like, earlier we were talking about people, you know, drama teachers, and, you know, my drama teacher in high school really, Mr. Gautier, who's since passed on, was very instrumental in giving me the space I needed to find my confidence to get up on stage and to find that voice. And I remember the day that our last day of school, I went into his office to say thank you. And he said, you know, when you first walked in to my class, we couldn't get you to say anything, and now we can't get you to shut up. And I was like, well, I guess I found my tribe. But, you know, acting for me was really a place to escape the negativity that was going on in my head. And I know that there's a lot of actors that use those characters they play or their work to do just that. And fortunately for me, as I kind of moved through life and realized that I needed to work on that, and that was no longer working. I could no longer run from who I was. You know, I learned to love myself, and I did a lot of work and had a lot of help in that journey. But, you know, because of that, now my motivation for acting changed, and it's become a more positive reason, and a reason to you know, tell story and collaborate and connect with others.
And you have a chapter in There'll Be Peace When You Are Done.
I do.
And so do I.
I have it right here. I'm so excited, and it's such a love letter to the fans of Supernatural. Here it is. To the fans of Supernatural, and my blog State of Slay, and just how we've really connected through our vulnerability and our stories and our journey, and given each other strength and support. And I think that that's what's so beautiful about this show and the fandom, is that, you know, it's beyond just the show. And that's why this show will live on forever. The legacy of this show is not just the show and a great story and great characters. It's all of this other stuff that's come about, you know, random acts and all of these like incredible nonprofit, you know, companies and things that people get involved in, and the acts of kindness that have come from the family, you know, and the fandom. So that's really, I think, what's incredible about about the fandom and about the show, is that it's really turned into something so much bigger, and that's incredibly unique and special.
Well, Carrie, thank you so much. The time has gone so quickly, and I love hearing your stories, and I love your photobombing dog in the background.
I know, right? It was like she was on a pogo stick.
Eyes just kept coming up and down.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for taking time to be with us. Love hearing the stories, and hope our paths cross at some time when the current unpleasantness is over. But best luck with your blog and the new startup. I think it's a terrific idea. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much, Gail. It's been so much fun, and stay safe, everyone.
Well, you too. I'm Gail Z. Martin, and our guest today was Carrie Genzel. This is the Continual Supernatural Fandom track, so stay tuned. We've got a lot more Fandom and Supernatural coming your way. Thanks for joining us.